Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Wednesday, the 2nd of April. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning for the first time this week by Jonny McFarlane. How's it going, Jonny?
Great, mate. Delighted to be on. I've got a small child with chicken pox, so any way to get away from that is positive for me.
Yeah, I don't envy you in the slightest. Can't remember. Everyone's had chicken pox, I think, once in their life, haven't I? Don't think I've had it since I was a wee guy. I think you only get it once. Is that right? Can you remember having chicken pox back in the day, Jonny?
Yes, I had it when I was 14, and it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I had a really good mate. I'd never had it, and I had a really good mate who had it when he was like 13, 14, and he'd always been a bit of a sort of he'd been a success with the ladies, and then he got chicken pox, and he started clawing at his face when he had it. And he came out, and he was like the moon, you know, his craters all over the place. And I always remember that he went from being a sort of handsome guy who was a success to being kind of for a couple of years his abilities had been diminished greatly. So I was always really, really concerned about getting it. And then when I did get it, I just basically lay still for 3 weeks, for 3 days, because I just didn't want to have that happen to me. So it was horrible. You get it when you're older and it's horrible, but for her, it's been fine. It's absolutely fine. I think you can get it a second time. It's very, very rare. So right, okay. I'm hoping I don't start scratching and coming out in little spots, because I will freak out.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But here we go. Let's crack on. Before we do that, folks, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, S1 Jobs. If you're looking to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. And before I forget as well, remember, I've got that wonderful giveaway still on offer at the moment, folks. I'll take that little banner away at the moment so you can see Paul Gascoigne in his full magnificence. If you want to win a signed and framed Paul Gascoigne jersey from the famous 9 in a row season, then all you have to do is sign up to the Rangers Review. £1 for 6 months. It's an outstanding offer alone, but you can be in with a chance of winning this fantastic prize, and you have to be signed up before the 6th of April, so make sure you are existing subscribers already automatically entered into the draw. That would look nice behind you, Jonny, in your room.
Yes, well, I mean, who wouldn't want to win that? That'll be an absolutely fantastic prize. I've actually seen it. It looks great. Yeah. The signature is pride of place in the centre of the shirt, and it just looks magnificent. On another note, Derek, you know how they always say is when you're ill, don't ever Google what you have. Don't ever Google your symptoms.
I'm bad for that.
Cancer. I think the new rule is when you have an issue, a medical issue of anything in your house, don't mention it on the show, because I'm looking at the comments and basically all these things that I've been told that are fine, very rare you get it twice and blah, blah, blah. And it's just doom down those comments. No, that's not true. People have it twice all the time. It's dreadful if you get it when you're older. If you get shingles, you're going to die, blah, 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 blah. So now I am panicked. So thank you for that, folks.
I am brilliant. Like a bit of comedy. So I got chicken pox at 22, redneck, and I love this. Noel says Jonny talking with pure glee at some guy getting the pox. There you go. But yeah, don't wish that on anyone. Right, we better start talking about Rangers now. There's a brilliant piece on the website before we talk about the SPFL news yesterday, Jonny. Folk, if they log on to the website this morning, can find a great interview with Arthur Numan, who's at AZ Alkmaar now. Some really interesting stuff to come from Arthur. Always a pleasure to hear what he has to say with regards to Rangers, but some insightful stuff coming from where he's working at the moment.
Yes, I was lucky enough to get to sit down for a while with Arthur on Friday. He was on the SPFL's warm-up show, which is a great watch. You can get it on YouTube. Normally has a couple of ex-pros on with Gordon Duncan from Cloud Super Scoreboard, and they have a good chat over the course of an hour. And he was here doing that, and I got to speak to him and thought, look, Arthur Numan, he's spoken a lot about the times that he had at the club. Obviously, trophy-laden spell, left a treble winner for a second time. Twice he won the treble with Rangers. And was at the club at a time when the quality player was incredible throughout his entire spell. And I think people look back on him as a really, really terrific player. Had his injuries, but when he signed in 1998, I wouldn't throw this about lightly. I think he was world class. He was the number one first choice left back for the Dutch team that got to the semi-final in the World Cup, and there were a host of top quality teams who were sniffing about him to bring him from PSV, and Rangers were able to get him. So it was great to sit down with him, and I didn't want to go over the old ground that people have talked about in the past. So I thought, let's have a look at what he's doing today as a scout for AZ, and it's remarkable. It's a remarkable story. This is a club with 20,000 seater stadium, just under 20,000 seats. Derek, they are roughly the size of a Hearts or a Hibs, and last year alone, they made €60 million in the transfer market from selling players, 3 deals, a double deal to Bologna, a deal to Bournemouth, and one to AC Milan for a player. I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was looking at Rinders, who's gone on to great things in Italy and is performing decently well. And I think there'll be more signings this summer, and another big splurge. Italian clubs have obviously seen the quality you can get from AZ, and I think they'll be back for more. So really one of the success stories of Dutch football, one of the great player trading models in Europe, and obviously a Rangers legend at the centre of it. So I thought this is the topic to get him on. And he was absolutely fascinating. He's got strong opinions, as most Dutch people do, about why it's worked, what their strategy is, and what Rangers can learn. And I think the key thing that came across over and over again talking to Arthur was he feels that we need to get better at Rangers and in this country at giving players an opportunity and saying to ourselves, do we need to go out and buy a central midfielder when we've got Bailey Rice there? Do we give Bailey Rice a season to prove himself, give him the chance?
Yeah.
That's the mentality in Dutch football, and that's why they continually bring through quality young players. That's why the national teams always got some of the best players in the world playing for it. And we're talking about a country that's only 3 times the size of Scotland, I think. So really, really interesting. Obviously, a lot more depth than that to the piece if you go and have a look at it on the Rangers Review website. But
yeah, I'll bring the link in the comments as well.
It's a detailed chat. I think it's about 1,600 words. And Arthur goes through all the elements of what he thinks AZ are doing that is important, what Rangers can learn, and then a little bit about what makes Rangers unique, because it's one thing performing for a kind of smaller Dutch team outside the top 3 that they've got there with Feyenoord, PSV and Ajax, and it's another than coming to Rangers with 52,000 fans and or 50,900, whatever it is now, and the pressure that you get living in this goldfish bowl. So in that regard, I think Arthur has a lot of good points, and I think some of the stuff that Barry Ferguson's been saying, Arthur is 100% on board with, about the character that you need, the personality that you need. Yeah. And he talked about the thing that really sort of irritates him sometimes with some of the foreigners that come into our game. He feels like if they don't understand the club, you can see it when they arrive that they don't understand the attitude required. Yeah. And he says, that really frustrates him, because the one thing he quickly understood was that you can play bad at Rangers, you can have a bad game, but you cannot ever not leave everything out on the pitch. You cannot ever not give 100%, because that's the first thing you're going to get called out on at Rangers.
Yeah.
So he completely understands intrinsically that element, and he feels like it's something that you have to also almost capture in a scouting capacity. Is the player going to be able to do that? So loads of chat and very interesting stuff.
Yeah, just an interesting point on that about the foreigners coming in. When Arthur was there, I think a big game was when Rangers went to Parkhead and lost 5-1. Famously after that, I think it was Ian Ferguson and Derek McInnes at the time let the foreign lads know. I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and one or two others made them quite acutely aware. I think even Dick Advocat that that was totally unacceptable and that should not happen ever again. So Yep, those two. I think there would have been one or two others as well that have made it clear what the demands and what is expected at Rangers, and it certainly helped as Rangers went on and won the treble that season. But yeah, interesting piece. Do go and check it out, folks. Other big news, as we touched on earlier on, Craig with the point says, genuinely thought the 10-team thing was an April Fool's yesterday when I first seen it. The SPFL coming out with a couple of stories, really, but the big one was that they're looking at league reconstruction, and they're hoping to draw up plans for a 10-team premiership and to abolish the top 6 split, which would reduce the amount of games. They're looking to reduce that from 38 games to 36 to coincide with the expansion of UEFA club competitions and fixture congestion and all that jazz. Now, it has to go through the competitions. It has to go through 11 of the 12 SPFL top flight clubs would have to agree to this. The competition's working group, it would require also the backing of 8 out of 10 championship teams, 15 teams out of 20 in League One and League Two to pass. Can't see it being passed, Johnny. I was a bit surprised at this. We've all been saying we want a more exciting, less boring league. 10 teams, I don't think gets us there, does it?
Well, I remember 10 teams. That was the founding structure when I was a kid, and it became quite stale and boring, and everyone wanted to change and bring more teams in. And I have to say my own preference would be to move to a 14. That way you can split after 2 rounds of fixtures into a top 6 and a bottom 8. The bottom 8 get more games. Obviously, they would be playing each other. So you'd be talking 26 plus 14, so 40 games, where it'd be 36 games for the top 6. That's 2 games less than we play at the moment. I'm led to believe that the attraction of the 10 is that it's 36 games, which is 2 less games, because of the addition of the Europa League and the Champions League new format and the additional games that come as part of that. It means that the SPFL are finding it increasingly difficult to schedule all the fixtures without playing 4 games in a week and things like that. Ridiculous. So, listen, I can see the benefits of a 10, right? And before everyone goes mad, let me just slightly explain, because I don't want the 10. But if you're in the 10, it's obviously the money is more concentrated. So I think for the big clubs, if we're talking Celtic, if we're talking Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, these 2 clubs that aren't in the top flight. So I think the idea must be that it would be more concentrated. You'd be guaranteed, if you're a Hearts or a Hibs, 4 games, because with the split, you're only getting 3. That would obviously apply to Dundee and Dundee United. So if you're in that top 10, you can really budget with the full amount of derbies in mind at the start of the season. And I think this is really important. We know how important sporting integrity is to Scottish football. We established that strongly, if I do not recall. And let's be honest, the whole point of a league is that the best team over a certain amount of games wins, based on having played the same or faced the same obstacles as everyone else. Now, if you have a setup that sends Rangers 3 times to Kilmarnock and Celtic 3 times to Aberdeen, it's not the same. And so there's an element. I'm not saying that this has caused any issues in terms of the broader results of the league over the last few years. Not at all. But there's no doubt that if it's not exactly the same, then it's a bit icky, Derek. That's how I would describe it. It's imperfect at the very least.
Yeah.
And you can get situations whereby there's advantage to one team based on the way the fixtures fall. I don't think the fixtures are falling in a way that's kind of managed or anything like that. I think it's, they try to make it as equal as they can, but you can't, because it's by its nature imbalanced. So those are the reasons why the 10, I think, would be gaining traction.
Yeah.
However, as you saw from the reaction to Stephen McGowan's story in the Herald yesterday, the fans just do not want a smaller league. And the fans should carry some sway here, because this is a league that lives or dies based on fan engagement. We don't have a big TV deal here. What we're talking about a league that massively is made up in terms of its financial revenues from ticket sales, hospitality, and match day revenue ultimately. So if we're talking about the future, I think it would have to be a 14 if it's changing from the 12 with that system that I outlined. There's some people talking about a 16 or an 18. Well, an 18 is a complete no-brainer. A complete non-starter. You can't lose 2 Old Firm games. You know, it would be a dilution of standards. I think, it might be great for the St Johnstons and the Ross Counties of this world, but would it be great for Rangers and Celtic to be going up against so much cannon fodder? And let's be honest, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just looking at the budgets of the team that would be 16th, 17th, 18th compared with Rangers and Celtic, who are 100 million turnover clubs. In Celtic's case, I think 120 million last season. So, you know, that is cannon fodder. That's not a fair fight, and I know that there's always going to be an aspect to that in the league. But adding more of that, I would find that extremely unattractive. A 16, there are ways you could manipulate it so everyone played twice, and then you broke off into groups of 4. But again, I think it's going to be hard to manage the middle groups and why they would mean anything. So the top 4, obviously, that makes sense. You know, say it's Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, and Hibs. Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, and Aberdeen. If you take the top 3 the top 4 at the moment, then everyone plays each other twice, and you get up to that 36 game point. So yes, absolutely, that makes sense. But anything else, no, and certainly not playing each other twice with a 16. What's your opinion on it?
I want an expansion. I think it's dull as dishwater, the Scottish Premiership. Relegation is an issue for me. The fact that only one team automatically comes up from the Championship is just a disgrace for me. And the playoff system needs revamped. We can't have this current situation as it stands, whereby, what is it in the Championship? 4th play 3rd, the winner of that plays 2nd, the winner of that plays 2nd bottom in this Premiership. I mean, come on. It's I'd revamp that. I would want 2 up, 2 down. If you want a playoff, have a playoff for the teams in the Championship, like we see down south. Have a showpiece game at a stadium. It doesn't have to be Hampden. It can be a final at a venue where you can expect to fill it. So I would look to change that because it's heavily weighted towards the team that comes 2nd bottom. I
like that idea about Derek about making the playoffs, I think, more challenging. If I'm not up 2 up, I'm not for 2 up, 2 down, because I think the playoffs adds a lot of excitement and entertainment. But what I would do, and tell me what you think of this, how about if you take the team that comes 11th and you put them in with the other 3 and you say, right,
well, fair enough, yeah,
semi-finals, finals.
Yeah. If we're doing that, then if we compromise on that, 4th play 2nd bottom in the Premiership, 2nd play 3rd, the winners of that go into a final, play a one-off game. I don't understand why that's not the case as it stands.
Self-preservation.
Yeah, but again,
you want to make it tough.
Yeah. So I would be looking to do that. I know that the lowland league clubs want a fairer system as well with regards to, I know they play the Highland League champions, don't they? The winners of that play the bottom club of in the pyramid. So I would like to see that revamped to make it a bit fairer. As for the league reconstruction, expand the league, please. I just think of the players. I mean, as fans, it's dull. Surely players must be sick to death playing the same teams over and over again. Surely they'd like to see a bit of change, going to a different venue. every other week. You know what I mean?
I totally agree, Derek. The problem is you need 4 Old Firm games, and that's just absolutely fundamental to whatever they decide. So if you can't do that, if the model doesn't support that, the model isn't going to work, because so many of the smaller clubs in Scottish football absolutely rely on that TV revenue to survive as they stand, and they're not exactly swimming in cash as it is. So the only serious models, the only models worth looking at are the ones that maintain that, and anything else is just totally unrealistic. And I see over and over again on Twitter and other social media platforms, people really championing 16 and 18 as a 30-game, 34-game model. They're just not viable in the slightest, for a number of reasons, but primarily you can't cut games. We're in a league that struggles for cash. The problem with this league is there is no money in it for it to attract really good players, attract really good coaches, and for it to develop further. So how in goodness knows name are you going to be able to go out there with a league that's been diminished in terms of the money it can bring in because it's got less games, and make it better? I mean, that's improvement by strangulation, which speaks for itself, really. It just doesn't work. So the way to get a balance is 14, but let's talk about realpolitik, Derek, for a second. The fact is, 14 was put forward as a way to get through COVID, as a way not to unfairly relegate Hearts, the way that happened.
Budge, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the way not to affect Partick Thistle. And I think it was Stranraer was the club, wasn't it? And that was rejected. It was rejected. And if it didn't get through then, when there was the goodwill, I think,
I can't see clubs
to try and not make anyone be harmed by what was forced upon the country by COVID, then how are you going to get it now?
I love this. Lewis says, realpolitik, what league do they play? They play over in the Spanish 6th tier, I think, Lewis, is where they ply their trade. Lots of comments, as you can imagine, coming in from this. Broken says, 16 teams then split after home and away, then bottom 8 play each other home and away. Still the 4 Old Firm games. Bill with a point.
That's more games, though. So that's 44 games. And part of the reason they're looking at reconstruction is because
30 games, then you split top, bottom, and then it's 30. How many games is that? Yeah.
So I think it's 44 games with my back of the fag packet maths. The part of the reason they're looking at reconstruction is because the big clubs are looking at it and saying, given what we're facing in Europe, we need to play less games. All this points towards.
It's just basically Rangers have got fixture congestion. Celtic, but now with obviously expanded Champions League, but the other clubs don't really have fixture congestion, do they?
Well, I think if you look at Hearts over the last couple of years, Aberdeen have been in the Conference League. I know it's not as many games in the Conference League. I think it's 6, isn't it, rather than 8?
Yeah, which is weird. I don't know why that's the case, but
they'll be the same in terms of wanting to focus on the European games for the revenue that brings in at that point, and having a bit more freedom and a bit more flex in the calendar, I think would help. Personally, Derek, and I've got to be honest, and I've felt this a lot for a long time, and this will be controversial. Do we need a League Cup in 2025? Do we really?
I'm glad you said that, Johnny, because just as you said it, Bluebells are Blue says, do away with the League Cup then. I
mean, I think that should be on the table. It would strengthen, in my mind, the Scottish Cup to have one cup competition. You know, a lot of countries only have one. Italy, for example, Coppa Italia, and even then it's been slightly diminished, the Coppa Italia. It's never been as big a deal as it was over here in the UK and in both countries. You look down south, the Carabao Cup, Derek, it's been severely diminished by so many big clubs.
Tell Newcastle United fans it's been diminished, Johnny.
I think when you win it, obviously you're going to celebrate it like a major trophy. And Newcastle were obviously a great,
I know what you mean, though.
Great story. But you know what I mean in terms of Pep Guardiola and the way he's treated it. The League Cup for me is the tournament where you have a bit of flex. Now, a lot of people like it. A lot of people will say, well, it brings money into the league. It's a league organisation. So it's one of these ones where the clubs can use it to make more money. And again, it would be diminishing the model because you'd be taking away games. I don't think there's a perfect solution. And ultimately, Derek, I suppose this is why I kind of imagine that we'll probably retain this 12 probably past my lifetime. I mean, where are you going to get the momentum to change it? I don't know where it's coming from. They're looking at it. I would imagine, and I'm guessing, I don't know, I would imagine a lot of this is driven by Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs. I think for Hearts and Hibs, the attraction of guaranteeing the four derby games must be a big factor. Making the league a bit smaller, making it more tight, more competitive. I think it's also incumbent to remember that we did hire a former First Minister to look in detail at Scottish football and give recommendations on how it could move forward. And one of his recommendations was to move to a 10. Why ask? And if you don't like what the person's going to say, but I get why people are so against it. And as I say, I'm against it. I'm just not as against it as quite a lot of people are. I think there is benefits to a 10, but I would say definitely let's try the 14. Let's see how that works.
Yeah.
Isn't that a big problem with Scottish football, Derek? This sort of thrown nature that we have of, oh, we can't try that. I mean, why not try it for a season or two seasons?
I don't like how the SPFL is governed, and I'm not alone in that, Johnny.
No.
We have someone that I just feel is just not good for the good of the game in Scotland, and the sooner we have a change at the top, I think the better, but I do not see that coming anytime soon. The Sniper says, give the League Cup to the Championship and lower leagues, but we have the SPFL Trust Trophy, don't we, which is the Challenge Cup, which they all compete for, but it's an interesting point. Someone said that you would take away the opportunity of a treble. I'd bring back the Glasgow Cup, the Drybrough Cup style at the start of the season. Let's get that cup competition off and running, albeit it would just be Glasgow teams that would compete for it. But then you can get your treble if you want a treble. Big Phil says the Belgian model of 16 looks viable. They have incidentally just recently scrapped their split moving forward. They're moving back to a traditional 18 club league format, and they're getting rid of the controversial playoffs over there. So they're certainly looking at their league structure and changing it. And by all accounts, I know Philip Clement spoke about it before in a press conference about when he won the league title, and he wasn't too happy about. I think all their points get brought back to zero when they split, which is not ideal. Can you imagine that, Johnny?
No, I didn't like that model at all. I thought it was kind of ridiculous, to be honest, and it would cause ructions here. I'm sure it caused ructions there, but at least in Belgium they show the capacity to change it up and try and find the best model, because every country has its idiosyncrasies and has its specificities that mean that one model that works somewhere else might not work here, and vice versa. So I think you've just got to keep changing and adapting and evolving it. And we haven't done that. It's not. I think it was 2001 was the season that it came in. And do you know what? I spoke to someone last night who was around at the time, involved in the SPL, and they said that ultimately they wanted to be a 10. They wanted it to be 10 clubs, but that what happened was that part of the governance said it had to be 12. So this basically was a compromise, 12 with the split to make it work. It was the only way they could make it work, because it would have been 12 otherwise would have been 44 games. And we can see that in the modern era, with the amount of European games that you're going to be playing and cups, that it would just be completely unmanageable. It would have been unmanageable then, but it certainly wouldn't have held until now. Ultimately, Derek, all these things and all the difficulties, it just to me leaves two options: remain where we are, or go to the 14. I just don't think 10's viable because of the amount of anger that you see when it's mentioned, and I can understand it. So remain where we are and move to the 14, and those are the two ones that look reasonably attractive. I don't mind the setup the way it is. I quite like the split, but I do think that sometimes you need to change the menu and refresh it up a little bit and moving to the 14 for a 2-season period to see how it works would be a good idea.
I just want to see more jeopardy at the relegation and promotion levels. Please, at least let's sort that out, and then we can look at expansion. But same team comes up pretty much. I mean, Dundee United came up last season. I think, was it Dundee the season before? Who's coming up this? I think Falkirk have got a real good chance of coming up, which will be good. It's a different team coming up to the top flight. But I would like to see 2 up and 2 down if that can be achieved, but I very much doubt that will materialise in the near future. I like this from Bobby, says, go back to the normal setup, stuff the split. So that is his views on it. Not a big fan of the old split. And just harping back to Arthur Numan, Multiple Man says, quiz question, do you remember who filled in for him during the 2003 League Cup final against Celtic? I know, I was there. Wonderful afternoon at Hampden. Don't look at the comments, Johnny. Do you want a clue?
Yeah.
He was French.
Jérôme Bonicel?
Yay. There you go.
Yeah.
Hang on. So, top trumps.
Yeah, that's a name that I've not said aloud for at least 20 years. He's actually quite a tidy player.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Yeah, treble winner as well, of course, that season for Rangers.
He just wasn't Arthur Numan, but few left-backs in Rangers history were.
Yeah. He was some player, wasn't he? Right, we'll wrap up there. Big thank you to Johnny, as ever, for tuning in. Just a reminder, folks, if you're looking to get your comments in, if you weren't able to do so, you have to be a subscriber to the channel. It is totally free, doesn't cost you a penny, but you need to make sure you hit that subscribe button to get your comments in to us. Right, heads up, I will be speaking to a Birmingham podcaster shortly after this video, to hear how Ben Davis and Kieran Dill are doing down there. By all accounts, they're doing well in Birmingham. The noises coming out from St Andrews suggest that they are keen on extending their stay. So we'll get a bit of a better picture on how they are doing down there. So keep your eyes peeled for that, folks. And if I don't speak to you today, then enjoy your Wednesday, whatever you are up to. You up to much today, Johnny? Working away, as I imagine. What's the weather like down there? Looks like it's
fantastic, Derek. It's gorgeous blue skies. I'm looking out over the city and the Campsies, and there is not a cloud in the sky. It's like Greece or Italy or something like that. It's wonderful. And yesterday was actually quite nice as well. It was. I wandered through the town. I've found this amazing parking app. I don't know if you've heard of it, Derek. I'm going to plug it because it's so goddamn good. It's called Your Parking Space, and it allows you to find parking spaces from hotels. So, say hotels aren't full, they'll sell a parking space. And so I'm used to paying, like, if I want to go into town, because I normally work from home, but I go into town a couple of days a week. You know, if I want to park, it's 12 quid, so I'm forced onto public transport. But this, you can get a parking space roughly in the vicinity of Glasgow city centre for £4 for the day, or £4.50. So it's fantastic. So I was just south of the river at the Premier Inn, which is about, I don't know, it's like literally 6 minutes walk from the city centre. And I was walking through the city, and there was so many people out. The Clutha, everyone out in front of that drinking beer with the sun beating down on them. And I thought,
oh, lovely.
If I didn't have a chicken pox child to go home to, I would definitely be having a frosty pint right now. And it's same again. The wife is away. She's away on a conference, Derek. So it's me and the bairn, and I just have to get on with it.
Yeah. A few folk messaging in. Dave says, I used that app when I went to a Foo Fighters gig in Milton Keynes.
It's great.
A few years ago. And Chris says, Just Park does the same thing, FYI. So, I'll be downloading that app, that's for sure.
I'm clearly late to the party and all this.
Yeah, it's an absolute fortune, though, isn't it? I mean, parking, not just a Glasgow issue. I mean, city centre. Yeah.
Like $4.50 an hour? $4.50 an hour?
Even town centres, when I go back to Hamilton now and again, they complain about people not using town centres anymore, but you're charging for parking when it's an absolute joke. But that's we're delving into a different topic there. But town councils, scrap your parking, please, and then you might see an increase in footfall, perhaps. But right, we'll wrap up.
They should put us in charge, really, Derek. I mean, if anyone wants to back us for the new political party, the Rangers Review Party, we're guaranteed to at least lose 50% of the vote, but we might get 1% of the other half. Let's see how it goes.
Yep, great idea. Right, we'll wrap up there. Thank you to you all for tuning in, and we'll speak to you later on. Bye for now.